it's Karen Burniston here with my monthly designer challenge video. The theme this month is borders, borders, borders. So we're all going to be incorporating some of our border dies into our projects. Now my project's going to be a cool pop-up fireworks card that could be used for 4th of July, or it really could be used for any type of celebration. The three main dies that I used on the card are Christmas Borders 1, Palm Tree Pop-Up, and the Raising Platform Pop-Up. So the Raising Platform is where I got the labels and the stars. Then I went to 4 additional decorator dies, but those are pretty easy to substitute. So if you want to make it just like mine, you'll need squares and rectangles crosshatch, mini alphabet and numbers, and our Celebrate die set. I'll start first by making the background for my card, and I did that using the border dies. So this is the peppermint candy border from Christmas Borders 1. I didn't cut the little pinwheel overlays because I wasn't using them as peppermint candies. Instead, I chose red, white, and blue, and I cut 4 each of my 3 colors. So I have a total of 12 borders to weave together to make this background. So I attached 2 red borders together to make a corner, and I did that with the little circle area between 2 peppermint candies. And then now I'm going to my second row, and that's going to be white, and I'm going to have the white go over the red. But then when I go to the vertical one, I'm going to have the white go under the red. So the idea is that you're constantly weaving. So you're going over, under, which with each strip. So each strip, just look at what, the last thing was, whether it was over or under, and then just do the opposite for the next one. And then it should just work out. We'll end up with kind of a basket weave going down through the whole thing. And then keeping things straight, they'll all just continuously line up. So you can kind of slide things and move things or whatever to make sure that they line up. Now I'm going to go with blue. All right, so in this case, I need to go over the first border and under the second one because I'm doing a weave. So they're attaching on the little tiny circles that are in between the peppermint candies and then the big circles that are the peppermint candies. So those are the 2 areas where all of these borders are going to cross. And what I did is I would just start in a corner and do the 2 reds, and then I'd go down one horizontally and do a white and then vertical white, and then I would go, down one more and do blue, and I just kind of kept doing that, weaving it in as I went. And this would definitely look great in different colors. You could do 2 colors, you could do, 5 different colors. It wouldn't really matter. You could really customize this to whatever you wanted your kind of quilt to look like. Maybe it could be in the colors of your favorite sports team. Maybe it could be rainbow. I mean, there's just lots of ways that you could take this technique of just weaving these borders together to make that kind of custom quilted look. So once I got through a red, white, and blue in both directions, then I just repeated it. So I did red, white, and blue, again. So I was trying to do a square, so I quit weaving after I got enough to where my little square frame cut with my crosshatch squares would be filled in. But then when I went to do one for the front, I just kept weaving until I had one that was a rectangle. So you could just keep going. You can also just connect these borders together. So if you needed a longer or wider, quilt, you could just keep gluing the borders to each other to lengthen them to make your weave even bigger. But for the inside of my A2 size card, I was just going to use that square frame cut using the 2 largest squares from the Squares Crosshatch die set. And then once I had enough of a weave to fill in that frame, then I quit weaving, added some glue around the perimeter, and then added that frame. So then after adding the frame, I just flipped it over and added my glue around the perimeter of the frame and then all over the circles kind of on the inside so that I could attach a piece of pattern paper to the back. And then I just trimmed off all of the borders that were sticking out beyond the frame. And then since I was doing kind of a patriotic quilt, I decided to add stars to all of the circles. So those stars came out of the Raising Platform pop-up. It'll cut 4 little stars at a time. I used double-sided adhesive tape on the back of the cardstock before die cutting so that all of my stars would be stickers. Another way that I'm going to use the same peppermint candy border is I'm first going to trim down to where I have just 4 candies. So I'm removing the little circle that connects them. Now I'm going to glue 4 candies together, and I'm just going to rotate each candy so that it fills in and becomes the petals of the rosette. So 4 of them stacked up together will create the rosette, and then I'm just going to bend all of the petals upward. And then after making the rosette, I'm going to add a letter to it. And so those letters were cut out of our mini alphabet and numbers die set. Then I repeat that process 2 more times to make red rosettes. And then I've added the letters to those. And then I'm going to glue my finished rosettes to a white peppermint candy border to create the banner. And then I just cut off the final peppermint candies to complete my banner. For card size, I am going to make a top fold A2 size card. So I started with a piece of cardstock, 4 1/4 on the width by 11 inches on the length, and then I scored it in the middle for folding. The squares that I made are going to create the end decorations for the interior of my card. And then on the inside portion is where the mechanism is going to go for the palm tree pop-up. So I've assembled another square, this time with black and then a blue frame. And then I'm going to cut from the ends 1 1/8 inches. And I do that from both ends of the square. So then now what these are going to become is the interior portion that is going to hold the mechanism for the palm tree pop-up. And then when those get glued inside the card, that will create that little interior piece. So I arranged the 2 pieces with a little gap between them, and then I used the alignment nubs on the pop-up mechanism from the palm tree pop-up to put over that gap. And then I just centered it and used temporary tape to hold it in place. I ran it through the die cutting machine, and now I can carefully remove the die, and what it will have done is created tabs that are in the location to animate the palm tree pop-up base. Next, I die cut the palm tree base, and that piece has 6 fold lines in it. So I'm going to put my thumbnail in each fold and fold towards myself first, but then I'm going to reverse those to make them mountain folds. So that is a 6-sided base. It has a tapered tab that can be used to connect one side to the other. And for that, I just recommend a strong glue. So my favorite glue is LINECO Neutral pH Adhesive. I'm using that in my fine tip bottle. We do sell both of those items on our website. On the base itself, there are 2 solid sides that don't have holes in them, and those are the same size as those tabs. So what I do is I just add some adhesive to the outside of the tab. I find one of those solid sides on the base, and then I just pinch that until it attaches to that tab. And then I do the same thing on the other side. So I put the adhesive on the tab itself, I slide it into the base and just pinch it in there until it is connected. And if you remember, I cut those tabs so that there was a little bit of a gap between the pieces, and that way I can have that gap go through the fold area and I don't have to try to line up a fold within a fold. So I'm going to do this in the flat position. I'm going to coat one side with adhesive. And then what I want to do is butt that up to the fold, but a little bit away from the fold. So I'm going to put that gap back into it. Okay, so I was just going by eye with how much gap, and it was a little bit tricky to see with the black on black cardstock, but in actuality, I really did put that too far away from the fold. And I'm going to discover that as soon as I get the other side attached. So I add my glue all over the other side. Let me get rid of these. And I'm going to keep that nice and straight and close the card. And when I open it, I see right away that I've created a rectangle in the middle instead of something that at least has a little bit of a 6-sided kind of hexagon shape. So real quick, I'm going to get that backside peeled up and moved a little bit closer to the fold. I just put too much of a gap in it. And then I'm going to carefully peel up the other side. That is a reason that I like glue, because you generally have a little bit of time to make corrections. And then I'm going to repeat that process. Now I'm a little bit closer to the fold. So then when I close the card and open it, I should see more of a 6-sided base, that has a little bit of a hexagon shape to it. And then out on the ends, I'm going to glue in those squares that I created. Transparent materials are what's going to make my fireworks appear to be floating. So for the palm tree trunk, I'm using just a thinner transparency, but then for the supports for my USA banner, I'm going to use a thicker window plastic. So that's one that has one of those coatings on both sides. For the trunks themselves of the palm tree, it really could just be a printer transparency. It just has to be a thin transparency material that can be die cut. Okay, so I ran that die through the die cutting machine to die cut my 2 transparency palm tree trunks, and I'll just set them against black so you can see what they look like. The fireworks themselves, I'm going to use the palm tree fronds, and with that I'm going to use 3 different colors of a chunky glitter paper. So the notched and the slotted palm tree fronds are going to link together like this, and I'm going to turn them first into a more of a firework shape. So the way I'm going to do that is I'm going to come out on the end of a frond, and I'm just going to go a little bit away from the bottom edge and trim a thin piece up. Then I'm going to go up to where that little notched piece is and do the same thing at the top. And then I've got a wide piece in the middle, and I can take some off of both sides of that. So I start up at the top, trim out a wedge there, and then go to the bottom, trim out a wedge there. And then I'll have turned that frond into 3 little spokes of my firework. And then I'm just going to repeat that 5 more times. Certainly having sharper scissors or something that can do smaller detail work will be helpful for this, but it does not have to be perfect. And then I do the exact same process with the other large frond. So a little behind the scenes info. Typically when I'm trying some new technique on a designer challenge video, I will make myself a little prototype first out of just some, scrap cardstock. And I did make one of these fireworks, and I just used some colored cardstock. So it wasn't glitter cardstock. It still looked great. So don't feel like your fireworks have to be made out of glitter cardstock. It just adds a little extra sparkle. Okay, so from here, it's just typical palm tree assembly. And since I am using a transparency, I'm going to switch to using some miniature glue dots to attach the fireworks to the trunks. So I'm going to start with the solid trunk. So the solid trunk corresponds to the firework that has kind of the solid area at the top. And then you just glue it so that the rounded area at the top of the tree is hidden behind the firework. And then the other palm tree trunk has a slot up the middle. So for that one, I need 2 glue dots, one on either side of the slot. Okay, and before I can put the firework at the top of that one, I have to get the solid tree through the middle of the slot until the notches are seated at the bottom. Okay, so then I just hold that. I take my other firework, and from the top, I go down until that is notched into the other firework, and then I just attach it to those 2 glue dots on either side. So that kind of basically completes the top of the slot and locks those 2 pieces together. And the idea, of course, is by having a transparent trunk that it will give the illusion of just fireworks in the sky. Now I'm going to create 2 thin banner supports out of that thicker plastic so that my USA banner can also appear to be floating. I'm using miniature glue dots again because that is a transparency and they tend to like a dry adhesive. So miniature glue dot in the lower corner of the front 2 trunk pieces. And I am avoiding all of the mechanism parts. I've just got it out there on the end of the transparency. And then if I put my USA banner over the top, kind of at about the height that I think I want it to hang, then I can put my banner supports at whatever angle that is going to intersect with the ends of the USA banner. So my banner supports are too long right now, but it's just much easier to just get them in place, attach the USA banner to it, and then trim off any excess. So just kind of curling my USA banner into a pleasing arc, then I can go in there, and what I want to do is I want to attach the end little white circles to those banner supports. And once again, I'm going to use mini glue dot. Okay, so the highest it's going to be is going to be when it's flat like this. So I kind of cheat it up a little bit to where it's kind of looking like it's in the firework, but then as it opens, it'll kind of lower it down or move it out, I guess would be a better way to say it. So it'll move it away from the firework as the card opens. But definitely a little fiddly and a little guess and check, kind of find a height that you think works for it. And then once you've got it, you can trim off the excess banner supports. And then what I did is just added a glitter star over each end of the banner. Okay, so now as the palm tree opens, it will bend that banner forward towards the viewer. And now I can install that inside the card. So there are 4 tabs at the base of the palm tree trunks that wiggle into the 4 holes on the base. And you just do that from the outside. So really easy assembly on the palm tree pop-up. There is a full assembly video on it so that if you want to see this assembled, maybe without the transparent pieces, so it's easier to see what's happening, you can definitely go check out that assembly video. I will link it at the end of this video. Okay, so there's my pop-up firework with my USA banner that is installed on the base, so it will pop up and then it will fold down flat. I wasn't crazy about seeing those glue dots where the transparencies were attached to each other, so I decided to add some big glitter stars over the top of that connection to just disguise it. There are 2 size stars in that raising platform pop-up, so I just used the bigger one. So with the smaller fireworks, I used the smaller palm tree frond. And for that one, rather than try and do a triple on each one, which you could do, I mean, you could still do a triple, but I think that it looks fine with just a double. So what I mean by that is I'm just kind of cutting a wedge out of the middle of each one of those frond pieces to be able to make 2 spokes of the firework per, I guess, spoke of the palm tree frond. I don't know how else to say it. But you could try and do a triple if you wanted to. I just found that it looks fine with just a double. The small fireworks can attach to the big one, and you don't have to stop at 2. You can put as many as you wanted on there. I've got a pretty thin card, so I want to keep those fireworks kind of in a little bit just so that they'll stay within the card when the card is closed. But you can definitely kind of just explore the locations of those. And definitely while you still have time to move them, go ahead and check that they stay within the card when the card is closed, because you do have a chance to move them. So yeah, I probably have room for more fireworks. I just stopped at 3. But you could absolutely do more if you wanted to, and especially if you had a bigger card. Since I was using that raising platform pop-up for the stars, I decided to use the label and the oval out of that set as a place to sign the card. So I'm just going to put my little label and oval set centered on the front portion of the card. And then I'm going to call that good for the inside of the card. I feel like that is a lot of decoration, a lot of visual interest. So I'm going to now just do the front of the card. And for that one, I repeated that same quilting process, but this time I put pop dots between the quilt and the background paper so that it has a little bit of dimension to it. And the frame for that one was made with the Rectangles Crosshatch die set. If you needed this card to be a little thinner because you were worried about mailing it, then just eliminate the pop dots on the front. It still looks great even when it's just flat on the pattern paper like you see on the inside. So just both looks there to show on this card. For a greeting, I am using our Celebrate die set, and I just put that on a thin strip of white cardstock, and then I'm just going to glue that to the front of the card. Okay, so like I said, if you wanted to mail it, it is a standard A2 size card. However, with the addition of the pop dots on the front, it's pretty thick and it barely fits in an A2 size envelope. So that probably will require extra postage unless you eliminate the pop dots. You could also just go up to a bigger envelope. Now, obviously, the fireworks weren't great for a 4th of July card, and that is right around the corner for us in the States. But you could definitely use this technique of converting the palm tree pop-up into fireworks for any type of celebratory theme. And that might be New Year's or just anything that you wanted to celebrate. If you check the description box below this YouTube video, you will find supply links for the dies that I used on my card, as well as a link to the blog post. And on the blog post, you will find photographs of my card, as well as links to all of the wonderful border inspiration by our very talented design team. And this month, we have a brand new design team member, so definitely go check it out. Thanks for watching. If you click on the website link, you'll go to KarenBerniston.com, where you can purchase these dies, as well as find links to our other social media accounts. You can subscribe to this YouTube channel and check out some of my other videos. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you next time.